Hello, everybody. My name's Sarah Rosenberger. I'm sorry my camera is not on. It'll be on momentarily. Um, I have the pleasure of being the moderator tonight, and thank you all for joining us for this session today about different types of nursing roles within vascular. And our mission at SVN is to make sure that no matter what you do to help the vascular patient, that you're recognized and that you can get creative and find a way to see the need and fill the gap. So we have three great panelists. I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves, just sort of going in the order of which they are on my screen. So we'll start with Chris Owen.
Hi, I'm Chris Owen. I am an acute care nurse practitioner. I've been a registered nurse for 34 years, 14 of that as an ACMP in vascular surgery, vascular interventional radiology. I'm also the director of innovative design and simulation for the American College of Cardiology, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Chris. All right, we'll let Allie go next.
Hi everyone, I'm Baird holding my newborn. Actually, he's more like 4 months, so I don't know if he qualifies as a newborn anymore. And he just wanted to join for this roundtable, so I hope you don't mind. My name's Allie. Like I said, I am currently Director of Cardiac and Vascular Service Line for HCA at the corporate office here in Nashville. HCA owns 190 plus or minus hospital systems, a lot of which have vascular programs and vascular nurses. Before my HCA career, I was a vascular NP at Vanderbilt, specifically in vascular medicine. Once a vascular nurse and NP, you're always one. So very excited to be here and discuss the roles outside of vascular nursing. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Allie. And then finally, we'll have Kristen introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Kristen Alix. I'm also a vascular APP nurse practitioner. I have a dual board certification because I've been a vascular nurse maybe a little longer than Chris. I don't know, maybe about the same. So about 28 years now. I started my career in an ICU setting and then started working for a vascular surgeon as a nurse. And then decided I was doing a lot of work that was probably falling under an APP type of way. So I got an adult nurse practitioner role. And then in 2018, I did an acute care nurse practitioner postmaster certification. And I work at the University of Colorado and I work inpatient and outpatient. So very much a hybrid position where I do 2 days inpatient, 2 days outpatient. But most recently, I started as an associate director in the Office of Advanced Practice, which is a place where we have APP run mentors to surgical service lines, critical care service lines, ambulatory and inpatient service lines. And I was the director of surgical service line until just a couple weeks ago when my division had a need for me to come back. But I would like to talk to you all about that role as an Office of Advanced Practice and in leadership.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys all so much. We want this to be somewhat informal. If there are specific questions from the audience, put them in the chat and I will help facilitate making sure our panelists see it. You don't have to stick to my questions. This isn't like, a primetime debate, but I'll start you off with some kind of questions to get us started. And as the conversation flows, I may kind of return to some of these thoughts that we've had about how these roles have evolved. So starting with what led you to pursue a role outside of your vascular nursing experience and how did that transition unfold?
Allie, you want to start?
I was about to say, Chris, you want to start?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
okay, you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Loaded question, Sarah. I know you had that one teed up. So as a vascular medicine NP, because I will be very honest, I was more of a cardiac nurse first before my vascular NP training. 6 years in vascular medicine, I learned a lot about this complex patient profile and all the diagnoses, all the intricacies, even when it comes to genetics and all of those complexities. I was excited to have a seat at the table, if you will. And within my vascular medicine role, I wanted to further grow our programs, whether it's the aortic program, VTE program, et cetera. And so I learned, with getting my DNP degree, a doctorate of nursing practice, I was able to better understand the business side, policy, but obviously also research. After implementing a research project at my facility, I learned that I really enjoyed meeting with stakeholders and pulling everybody in for a large project. So that led me to looking into business type jobs. But I really obviously wanted to stick to what I knew, which was vascular. So the role was created for me because there was no vascular person at the corporate office. It's a lot of business people with not a lot of clinician vascular APP experience or vascular nursing experience. And so that's kind of what I was interested in doing, was having a seat at the table, be a voice for the vascular nurses and APPs on a broader scale. But obviously, I wouldn't be where I am without seeing the patients that I saw and the years in vascular nursing. Chris.
All right, so I will dovetail off of that. I think for me, my nursing experience was 20 years in surgical ICUs, working at a level 1 trauma center and our regional burn center, as well as a very robust open heart program. And so I took care of all of those patients. And through that journey, I had terrific experiences, both in education and leadership, and even program development. And so that is kind of what led me to go back and get my my NP, my master's. And at the time, ironically, I really thought I was going to go in and do the CNS. So my program was I went to University of Maryland, their Trauma Critical Care Emergency Nursing program. And it was an NP CNS program. And I kind of went in with the whole idea that I was going to be a CNS, I was going to do education, I was going to do quality improvement and all those things. But then sort of transitioned and found my love as a nurse practitioner. And I really was hoping to find a job when I graduated to work in our trauma center. But there weren't any jobs available at the time. And so I asked my trauma director, Jack, I said, what am I going to do? You don't have any jobs for me. There's this vascular surgery position. What do you think? And he said, well, if you can't do trauma, vascular surgery is the next best thing because patients are complex. There's always blood and you'll love it. So I kind of went that direction. I was like, yeah, you're right. This is for me. It's, a little bit different, out of my comfort zone, which I tend to like to do, is put myself out there out of my comfort zone. And that has kind of helped me transition into different roles, right? So vascular surgery role as an NP, inpatient, outpatient, and first assisting in the OR. I was the only nurse practitioner in the OR at my hospital. And that was a terrific role and a fantastic opportunity to help grow their program, and pull together education, and much like Allie, pull stakeholders together to kind of, develop processes and things like that, which I really, really liked. And then I transitioned into vascular interventional radiology at another hospital. And that was really an eye-opener for me to kind of learn the interventional radiology side of vascular care, as well as all the other disease processes that they manage. And again, so it was this thing of oh wow, there's so much more out there, and these guys are doing it just like we are, and this is pretty awesome. And that's like my pattern. It's sort of like I go through this period where I get really comfortable with things, and then I'm like, okay, well, what else? What else is there? I am a lifelong learner. And so now I'm in an opportunity to design education for our members that involve cardiovascular patients For me, it's super exciting because now I'm getting to see the cardiology focus of vascular care, and even more vascular medicine, which is really interesting to me. So I feel like I've had this really terrific opportunity to look at the care of the vascular patient in like 3 totally different lenses. And I think what has led me to make those changes is my curiosity, and my wonder about, okay, well, what's next? What can I do next? What can I, what can I bring to the table? And like Ali said, she likes to bring those stakeholders to the table and be at the table, and I'm very much the same. Huge advocate for advanced practice providers, and find that, developing a platform for advanced practice providers is huge. What I didn't mention is that I'm also the co-chair of the Society for Vascular Surgery's APP section, which is a brand new section. So that has been a very interesting role for me, and has contributed to my leadership development. So a very long-winded answer. What do
She
you
looks
think?
great for 70.
Thanks.
Just kidding. She's only 35.
Exactly. All right, Kristen, you're up.
I would say if I'm answering this question from a leadership slant, which I will, I remember being an ICU bedside nurse. And for those of you who've been in the society, you may have heard the story before. But I really liked the education that one of the nurses that was working for the surgeons came by. They said, we're going to do a FEMPOT bypass. They left. She stayed, explained what that meant. And it was really eye-opening to me in the time she took to care for the patient. And she knew so much from the surgeons and was able to translate that to patients. And all it took was an ask. I told that nurse, I said, what's your job? She goes, I'm a nurse clinician. I don't have a master's. I work in, a private office. I work with the surgeons every day. I see people pre-op, post-op, and in between. They've asked me to come in to help with the discharges. And I said, if you ever need another nurse, let me know, because this seems really, really interesting. So the first thing I would put out there is the ask. The second thing I would put out there is, as soon as I knew there was a society for vascular nursing, I wanted to learn more, very much to tail on what Chris said. We are lifelong learners, and the care of these patients is complicated enough. It keeps us on our toes, and we think critically and all that. But when I learned there was a society, I said, oh, I'll just come. I'll just, see what's out there. It was the first time I had met advanced practice providers as I transitioned from a clinical nurse into advanced practice, which my surgeons helped me do financially, which was great, because they valued what I brought to the team. I met other APPs that were vascular APPs, and that's where I met Chris and got involved with education because we had passions for that. At my own facility, we started an advanced practice group. And starting an advanced practice group, we were very small, maybe like 30 APPs in this group. And I just stayed engaged. And I wanted to know what other services were doing. And I wanted to know what other teams were doing when it came down to APP issues like reimbursement, CMEs, like time off, vacation, all that stuff. And because I stayed engaged with that facility, and because of my passion in the Society for Vascular Nursing, that led me to be on a board, to meet like-minded people, to all of us have been past presidents, and on the panel have been past presidents, and having that sort of background led to historical leadership within my own institution, to where they approached me to say, hey, you've done all these things. How would you like to be in a leadership position for the surgical APPs? And I think it was just taking that step and being around people that were like-minded, that were passionate. And I can say I've had amazing overlap with Chris. Chris and I worked on an education committee back in 2017 after we met at a conference. Allie, I took a job for a brief period of time working at HCA. She approached me 4,000 miles away and said, hey, what do you know about this HCA leadership role? So you think you're making, SVN has provided so many tangible contacts. Even Sarah and I talked, I cold called her one day. we both were passionate about certain things. And now look, we've done like a pearls building on what Allie and Chris have done. So all these really great connections are so important. And you just being able to give yourself opportunities to do them. So speak up, join, and like stay engaged.
So I love all three of your answers. And I think it was a great opening question because it allowed us to really kind of get almost like a quick shot into what your careers have been and how you've progressed. One thing that really stuck with me through all of your answers that I hope resonates with our attendees is that all three of you talked about how important the patients are. And I think that's a piece of nursing that we'll never lose. It's an asset that we bring to corporate, that we bring to the Society, of Cardiology, American Cardiology. It's something that you bring to your hospital administration or to SVN. And so often, at least I felt early in my career till I realized that these girls are just, human like me. Because when I hear these awesome stories about them, I think, whoa, that's them. And I'm just me who wants to take care of my patients and do a good job, right? And so, you can be both, and you, all three of you, amazingly do both. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about what skills you got from your nursing experience, or from your vascular experience that translated into these non-traditional roles?
I'll start. I think from, my personal nursing experience, like I said before, I had really some terrific mentors that opened up doors for me, that said, "Hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to come along?" And I was like, "Okay." And then next thing you know, I'm on the Hill advocating for injury prevention for kids and writing a bill for the state of Maryland on booster seats. It's like this whole piece of being open to the ask, um, and also like keeping that core value and understanding of your nursing experience and what your ultimate goal is, which is the whole patient, and being super mindful about their needs and improving outcomes, and testing things and doing research and collaborating. So I think like all of those experiences that I had individually, but I also had shared with mentors, kind of propelled me in a direction and got me to where I am. At the time that I was thinking about going back to school, I was actually in an education job, and it was very early on when we were transitioning in classroom learners to online learning. And it was kind of a really new thing. It was in the early 2000s. And we were building our own learning management system. And then we also developed, we went around the hospital and collected mannequins and started our own simulation center in a closet on the first floor of our hospital. And now it has blossomed into this enormous program where there's multiple sites of simulation and things like that. And it was in that job where my mind was really opened up to all of the possibilities, and the opportunity to return back to bedside nursing in a higher level capacity and start to pull together some of the things that I enjoy and that I had learned. And all of those experiences have gotten me to where I am now, because I'm able to pull all of that together. I still work clinically. It's a PRM position, but I still work clinically because I feel like it's super important to be relevant, and because I love my patients. That is something that I have always really, really enjoyed. So for me, it's been kind of a long path of amazing mentors and open doors, and to Kristen's point, being part of the society. When I became a vascular nurse practitioner, my partner was very involved with Society for Vascular Nursing. And she was like, okay, you need chop, you need to be a member of the society. I was like, okay. And then next thing you know, there's this carotid program going on. And I was like, oh, I want to look at that. I want to, check that out. And then the next thing you know, I'm on the education committee. And then the next thing you know, I am leading the committee. And then the next thing you know, I'm on the board. And then I'm on the board for a while. And then I'm president-elect and president. And it's just, I guess it's like all of those experiences have really made an impact in myself, my career, and being surrounded by like-minded people has been tremendous. And I just love the fact that I get to share all of this with all of you, and I hope I get to share it with a lot more people who join the society.
Nice. Well, I think I'll go next. Just being a vascular nurse or even at the bedside or whatever clinical role you're in, you have such a unique lens of what the patients need, what the nurses need, and any gaps that you see, you can act upon. And I just recently started working with our educator because we didn't have great vascular nursing insight and vascular nursing education materials. So I was like, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to attack it? So I think like whatever ideas you come up with as a vascular nurse at the bedside or as an APP, you can always generate traction on in some QI format and a research format. And having a society like ours also, subtle plug, like people can help with whatever you're passionate in. But also just like taking that leap, like Chris said, you never know where it's going to land. It could be doing quick in services of how to do wound care, quick in services of how to do an ABI potentially if like your unit or something needs that, or even just how to use a Doppler or how to listen to Doppler signals. It's not hard, but little things make a big impact. And if you see a gap, there's obviously a need is what we have found, or I've found in my career.
Those are hard answers to follow up to. Someone actually just mailed me a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So I think that kind of folds into all of our answers. We are always scared to be vulnerable. Honestly, I left my vascular medicine NP job, seeing patients every day, to potentially never seeing a patient again. And it was the craziest decision and one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. And I couldn't have done it, nor wouldn't have taken the job if it weren't for SVN. Because of things like Kristen just listed. She literally worked with my current boss. What are the chances? I live in Nashville. She lives in Colorado. I was encouraged by people like Chris Owen on the phone that think big, Allie, dream big. You can shoot for the moon. These people around you that you surround yourself with, and those things that make you vulnerable will only lift you up. So I just want to start with that caveat that I don't see patients anymore. And in my role on my team, I am the only vascular nurse in APP. Company-wide, things are brought to my attention, such as, for example, carotid stenting. There was a new Medicare eligibility in 2023 that opened up who is allowed to have a carotid stent. And it opened up a whole can of worms because more carotid stents could be done. So I had put my clinical lens on, like, this could be inappropriate. We're about to have willy-nilly stents everywhere done by whoever. And so I gave my clinical expertise and weighed in on those changes. We also lead physician calls. Do I wish there were nurses and APPs on them? Absolutely. But we ask our HCA vascular leaders across the company to sit in on these calls for program development. And that's carotid, that's PAD, that's VTE. We pull in guidelines, we pull in best practices, and I provide that vascular nurse and APP lens. We can't do it without us. This program, we can't do the program without a care coordinator. We can't have the program without the vascular nurse and APP leading the way. So those are all some examples, and there are many, what my skills have brought over. Every single day I miss seeing patients. And so if there's anybody on this call that is evaluating a career choice that is leaving patient care, I'm happy to be a sounding board and just be that shoulder to cry on maybe for a bit and feel like a little bit of an imposter. But I promise you are still making an impact. You may not feel it right away, but it's a great choice no matter what.
Thank you so much for that. The imposter thing makes me kind of is a nice tie into my next question, not to put words in your mouth that any of you will feel like an imposter, but you're now in leadership roles that extend far beyond the field of vascular or seemingly patients that you might have directly cared for. How do you take on that leadership when you are championing service lines bigger than your breadth of personal practice?
That's a great question. I can say I'm still trying to figure that out. I was telling somebody today, I learned hard. It does take somebody who is courageous and a risk taker to sort of jump into that space, and evolve to something that is bigger than what you thought you could be in, right? And I don't know, I just feel like that it's still, my job is still new to me and I'm still learning it and I'm still learning how the other folks around me function. Because I'm the only clinical person like Allie within my team. And so the way I think is completely different from the way they think. They're more business oriented, they're more administrative. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even spell Excel. Like I can, how do you even do an Excel spreadsheet? What is a Microsoft form? And they're just like, what? That's so easy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what? If you had cardiac arrest right now, I would be able to help you out. And so that's my superpower right now. Like, I don't know
That's
if
a
I'm really
page. I hate to
answering your
say that.
question, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question really, Sarah. I just I know that it's tough to take that leap of faith and to try something different. And to I know that Kristen and Allie, that the three of us have had this conversation about imposter syndrome and wondering if we made the right choice. And was this a good fit for us and so forth. And I just feel like that keeps us humble. That keeps us humble. It keeps us aware. And it keeps us, asking questions and moving forward and trying things, which is all going to help us evolve to be, even better leaders than we currently are, or we think we are at this point.
Imposter syndrome is real. I mean, all of us say that. I mean, I can tell you, I went in saying, why not me? That was the other thing. I looked in the mirror and I said, why not me? Why shouldn't I be good at this role? And after I got in it, same, lots of struggles for sure. But you have mentors. You have mentors to fall back on. I think I remember when I was contemplating, I called Tiffany Street, who's in leadership at Vanderbilt as a vascular NP, and I said, hey, can I lean on you? I got a lot of questions. I remember our division had a executive health or executive coach that I used to call all the time. I say, my leadership style is so different than other people's. What do I do with this? He said, lean into your strengths. It's fine. Don't doubt yourself. Just keep continuing to grow. So
those are great, really great answers. And I was honored to be able to ask that question, and then maybe I'll bust the imposter syndrome bubble for you guys, or just shine some light on the fact that we're all our own worst critic, because the three of these wonderful women are past presidents of the society, and they rose in leadership credibility within the Society of Vascular Nursing in a field where they felt really confident. And then I see all of you take that confidence and that, Kristen, to your point, that why not me? I have been successful at leading a national society. I can use this same talent with, populations without being the one who, diagnoses the, wanky Bach rhythm in cardiology, or, now I've been in vascular too long. I don't know what else they do in the other fields, right? But like, you guys all leaned on, just like at the beginning of this talk, you leaned on your care for the patient and the holistic nursing clinical outlook that you have. And you were able to build on that to a, ultimate position of leadership within our society. And what a great opportunity to test your wings there and now take them to even bigger fields. So, we all feel like imposters, but from this side of the bridge, you guys all look like really confident divas.
Yay.
What sort of continuing education do you take advantage of, either, formal additional training or opportunities to grow and learn and develop your leadership and other skills to make you successful in these positions?
I can start. So obviously I was very vulnerable in sharing that I don't see patients right now. And so that makes me feel very insecure. And going back to imposter, I was a nurse for about a year and a half, then went back and got my NP. So I have felt like an imposter like my whole life. And so I just want to say that, to Sarah's point, we always go to our weaknesses. We need to start shifting that mentality a bit and think about our strengths and what we are good at, what we bring to the table. It's taken me a long time to do that. It's still a work in progress. But for education purposes, I really look to our society for that. And there's a reason why I've been on this board since 2018. And I'm still on the board 2 years after I took a business role. So I'm very passionate about continuing education through Society of Vascular Nursing. We have a lot of resources, and our conference is bomb.com, shameless plug. And then also Society of Vascular Medicine is another society I am a member of and chair their APP committee as with Chris. And so that's another avenue for education and joining their conference for continuing education. There are other vascular conferences that I attend as well, and they fold nicely into my job, making sure that I stay current with guidelines and updates in practice, or else I wouldn't be able to influence these big decisions in every day. So that's my answer.
I will say for myself, I, again, am this lifelong learner, so I'm always testing the waters in different things, right? So initially I thought I wanted to get my DNP. And so I tried that for a little bit, and then I changed my mind about that. And I'm not going to dissuade anybody about doing that if it's the right fit for you. I think it really is an amazing opportunity to learn so much and to evolve in your career. But for me, that was a wake up to what I didn't want to do, if that makes sense. And so I am finishing up my teaching certificate, and so I should have that by spring. So that's another piece of education I'm gathering along the way. I am very involved still with the Society for Vascular Nursing, and I help to design a lot of the education for the conference and have been the conference chair, co-conference chair over the last few years. And we recently brought in simulations, so I'm really excited about that. So that's another avenue. Allie and I are both with Society of Vascular Medicine, like she said, and we work on the APP program that they have. We also work with Viva, and she and I have put that program together the last few years as well. So we both speak there. We're both thinking about, the needs of others and what they might need to progress in their career. When I was working with IR, I was on the Society for Interventional Radiology's Clinical Practice Committee, and was helping develop education for their members also. And now I am also a member of I'm an associate member of the American College of Cardiology, and I'm on their APRM work group. So for me, all of these different societies overlap. in some way and bring in different avenues of education along the way. To me, that continues to keep me engaged and continues to help me grow and be interested in what's new and upcoming and how things are changing. So those are really, that's how I keep going and get my CMEs and CEUs and hopefully stay relevant and current.
I think my advice would be similar. I won't rehash theirs, but I would say start small. Whatever you're interested. If you like organization, you're not a podium speaker, do exactly what Chris and Allie are doing. Do program planning. Those people are so needed. It's a way to step in the door, get involved, have short little asks of, what people want. I always said that I did a lot of regional little, I like being on the podium. I think it's fun. It helps me learn things. And that's my woo personality. If you guys have ever done Clifton Strengths, but not everybody can do that. But everybody has different ideas and excitement. I think the American College of Cardiology has lots of regional chapters that they're always inviting speakers and different outlooks, or you need volunteers for different projects, which is great. This sounds like we're also excited about our society, but when I did my first national presentation, I did it in front of, 75 of my closest friends at SVN. And it was such a great thing. I just did it over and over. And this is the first year, 25 years into my career, I submitted an abstract to AANP. And I think to myself, like, that's a big deal just to even be able to say, I can take this on a much bigger view. But it took me that long. But there's always little roles you can play within your institution, within different committees within your institution for, clinical practice guidelines, for QI, for VQI. If you're in vascular nursing, there's a lot of VQI nurses that get involved with that. So I would say just start local and you can build, and you build as you feel comfortable.
Thank you. So I feel like we've been doing a lot of talk about giving people advice and understanding your roles. What do you think people think about? What misconceptions might people have about the roles that you stepped into? Either the people that you work with or the vascular nurses that worked with you before, or the rest of us kind of looking at you with your fancy job titles.
I think for one, a misconception could be they're just choosing the easy route, meaning the bedside is hard. Those 12, 13, 14-hour shifts are brutal. Being a vascular APP, you're pulled in a million different directions as well as a nurse. And so switching to a business role, a corporate role might be viewed as like, it's the easier route. I can be the first to attest that a 5-day-a-week job is not the easier route. They all have their pros and cons. I think with nursing and APP, I can speak for myself. It was easier to leave it there, leave it at the job. In my current role, you do bring more home. Kind of feels like no days off type thing, but it does. And also, you don't check the box. Like as a vascular nurse and a vascular APP, I feel like I would see my patient, care for my patient, hopefully help them, check the box and feel really good about what I did that day. Versus every single day, I'm like chipping a little bit away at a project, but I'm not seeing that full check box when I leave work every day. So you're kind of like, what's my worth? What's my value? And it's something that happens over time. So that's a common misconception about potentially my job, and also that business people is going to the dark side, feel like that every single day. But I'm hoping that I can be a little bit of light on the dark side, providing and shedding some more insight from vascular nursing, and that the patient care is at the center.
I think that maybe people say that I'm not relevant anymore. And it's interesting because I remember many, many years ago when I took an injury prevention job and I was struggling with like, okay, I'm going to leave the bedside and, this is, what's going to happen and all this craziness. And somebody said to me, when you're at work, you're caring for that one patient or whatever your patient load is for that day. Maybe you're taking care of 4 people that day, whatever the number is. But when you go into these roles of leadership or injury prevention or whatever, you're taking care of hundreds of people. You may not be intimately taking care of them, but you are making a much larger impact. And so I know for me doing nursing, that gratification that you get from doing something for your patient and they appreciate it or they survive the day or whatever it is, it's that feeling that makes you feel like, wow, I really made a difference today. In the role that I'm in now, I get that feeling because I'm like, wow, I am creating education for 58,000 members. And that's a huge impact because it's not only educating them, but it's seeing them do what they can do with that education. And it just kind of flowers down. And so I get gratification from that. But it's taken me a long time to get there. Like that's a lot of growth and maturity to get to that space. So
Yeah, I would say in leadership, in the Office of Advanced Practice as the associate director of a surgical service line, I didn't just cover vascular anymore. I covered gynec, I covered orthopedics, anesthesia, just these huge groups, all the surgical teams in the Department of Surgery. And whenever I would go meet with their leads, because that's what the job was, is I was in an advocacy and mentorship role. And I was impressed how many people thought I was like some sort of new boss, if you will, or new, like I was evaluating them on certain things. And of course, the roles that was created, it was a new role. So no one really understood kind of where I was coming from, what slant I had, why I wanted to meet with them, where like I could help. And all it did was sitting down and talking about what do they love about their lead role? Are they a new leader? Are they struggling? Are there things that they don't know? And it was amazing that I had advice for them because I had been I had had the same struggles within our own division, or I had the same struggles with another coworker. And you're just, until you take that leap and until you actually have that face-to-face one-on-one conversations, like people just need support. And it was great being able to have that eye-opening experience of just a conversation it took and what they thought I was coming in to do versus what actually the role was, and really having a firm mission, vision, values that we all have in these leadership things. And if you don't, you should develop them in any organization, and just really leaning into that and being able to work through, work step by step together.
Awesome. Thank you. We have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we have some maybe open discussion time. So I have 1 or 2 more questions, and then for all of our audience members, either throw questions in the chat. I don't know if you can unmute yourself with this format, but we want to hear from you. These 3 women are fantastic leaders and resources. So if anything has sort of poked in your brain, now's a good time to start thinking about it and putting it out there. But as people think about that, you guys are on the forefront of leadership. You see where we've come and where we're going. Where do you see the nurse or nurse practitioner, APP role, particularly in vascular? How do you see it evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And, either within vascular or within leadership, what do you think are emerging areas that vascular nurses could be looking at to kind of say yes to opportunities as they come?
Well, I always say I have a couple of catchphrases, right, Kristen? But I always say vascular nurses are anywhere there is an artery, vein, and a lymphatic system. our membership is so diverse. You know, we have some people that are doing dialysis access. We have some people that are doing lymphedema and just venous clinics. We have some people that are in tertiary care facilities like you, Sarah, that are doing these extremely complex aortic surgeries and things like that. And we're really all over the place. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you go to orthopedics or if you go to a wound center or if you switch to neurosurgery, there's still going to be arteries, veins, and lymphatic systems there that are still going to need attention. And your experience is still incredibly valuable for that patient, maybe even more so because it might be something that's overlooked because the person who is caring for them is not, you know, as knowledgeable or intimate with that that particular system or issue that's going on. So yeah, I guess you know, evolving and changing like that, whatever you learn in vascular surgery, you're going to be able to bring with you everywhere you go in any patient population. I think that is something pretty amazing and flexible, and I've learned that nursing, like there are no ceilings in nursing because there are so many things that you can do. You can write a book, you can be a podcaster, you can, you know, be in the wilderness, be a camp nurse. There's so many vast different things that you can do with a nursing degree, which I think is so fantastic. And especially if you have a vascular background, you can bring that wherever you go.
Kristen, you go next.
I had a thought and then I was reading a question in the chat.
Squirrel.
I know. Repeat the question, Sarah. Sorry.
I'll try and make it less long-winded. Where do you see vascular nursing and nurse practitioners going in the next 5 to 10 years? And what sort of emerging roles?
I really think they are going to lead the care of the patient and the explanation of the parent. We are so based on quality care right now, and nurses at the bedside or anywhere in all the roles Chris just described are really like the stewards of that excellence in care. As far as vascular as a whole, I think it's changing so dynamically. Sarah and I both work in complex vascular aortic centers, and you should see like at all these meetings the new things coming down the line. I mean, people having their aortic arch replaced with stents and wires and catheters, and like being on the forefront of that has always been a passion I know of everybody on this call, and being able to translate that to the bedside. We have seen a huge trend too in industry where industry is targeting nurses and nurse practitioners because they know the surgeons, although they're great in clinic, they're great in the OR, they are not the ones that are like seeing that patient through their entirety of their thing. So we've had 2 industry partners in the last 2 years that I've seen that have really started to promote a lot of what they're doing in their education spaces, in their teaching spaces, in their provider spaces, based to nurses and advanced practice.
Well, and that's a great, you know, another is a tie-in to another atypical role that, you know, people who are maybe feeling like they're on a hamster wheel in the bedside game, the clinical specialists and even reps, particularly device representatives from industry, they are becoming, as the technology gets more and more impressive, real clinical partners in what you're doing. So, you know, your hospitals may tell you otherwise. I know mine does because they're so worried about the Sunshine Act and making sure that we're not getting any quid pro quo. But if you really look at your industry partners as partners and see what they bring to the table as far as, you know, if they maintain the ability to keep the patient at the center, but you can usually figure that out pretty quick. They are great people to get to know. They can be a resource for you. You can be a resource for them, and some atypical jobs may come out of that relationship.
And vascular is growing in leaps and bounds like to your point, in industry. There is a question in the chat, Sarah.
I love this. Yeah. Do you want to read it, Kristen?
Hang on, I gotta pull it back up. Do you find there's a gap in vascular knowledge among practitioners and other disciplines? That's one of the questions. There was a question before that too. Do we feel there's a gap in vascular knowledge among? Yes, absolutely. There's always been a gap with vascular care for sure. All of us have Chris has a job in education now just because of this. They don't teach it in the curriculum. They don't teach it in nursing curriculums or APP curriculums really. So yes, those of us in SVN are trying to bridge some of these gaps by what we've done. And if you're interested in that, put your name in the chat. We'll reach out because Sarah and I both currently chair the SVN Education Committee. Lots of things coming down the pipe.
All right, I've got this other question pulled up, so I'll pose it to our panel. This is a great question. How do you balance building a career with new roles and responsibilities with setting boundaries so that you don't overextend yourself? I think Allie should take this one.
Every day is a day. I'm just kidding. I would say right now with a baby, I've been trying to practice this life motto of quality over quantity. And so being really intentional with the time I have, whether it's at work with the baby, for myself, exercising with a friend, with family members. And Chris, I see that you asked the question. Chris, I feel like I am ruled by my calendar. Like I have a work calendar. My Outlook calendar is what rules my work to-dos, obviously, what's going on that day. But then I have a Google shared calendar with my husband. And I make sure that I'm not like overbooking myself because, everybody on this call knows we have society calls and they happen sometimes during the day, but a lot of times in the evening, which pours into your family time. And that causes a lot of logistical communication with your family members. Like, who's bathing the baby today and feeding the baby while I'm on this call, tag team approach. But I think going by your calendar, over communicating with your spouse, partner, doing whatever you can to prepare for the week to the best of your ability. Like maybe on Friday, you look at your calendar for the next week just so you know what you have in store. And if you have an insane Wednesday, then maybe don't overdo it on Tuesday. So that's my feedback.
I'm still trying to figure that out, Chris. I'm still trying to figure it out because I have a hard time saying no and overextending myself. So sometimes I just need to put my phone down and walk away from it, put it in my bedroom so that I'm not near it. And as some of you on this call know that I missed a call because I had put my phone down and I was supposed to be on a call because I was like in my mind, like, oh, wow, I finally have a free evening. I'm going to put my phone away and just enjoy myself for this evening. And so anyways, I guess, it's trial and error and you really just have to figure out what the priorities are. And to Allie's point, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that you have time in your day to exercise, to be with people that bring you joy, and then to also, just take care of yourself and make sure that you put that in your calendar for that day. I'm gonna do X for me. And that's totally fine.
I have the same advice from a really great person in leadership here. I kept giving up my admin time, my personal work time to help cover the service. She said, that is yours. Don't let anyone have it. You're impactful because of that. And I thought, that's great. The CMO of our hospital, he says if he's preparing a lecture, if he's preparing to study, like if any of you are going back to school, if you have family things at home, put it on the calendar of uninterrupted time. You tell your family, you tell your friends, you turn off your phone, you say, I'm dedicating this hour to getting this slideshow or your procedure or like whatever it is, homework done. And you respect it because you are the boss of you. Obviously, everybody's got responsibilities. I know I don't work out as much as these three on the call probably, but I try. But that's not on the calendar. If it was, I probably would. And even when you have those admin days, slot yourself in short slots. I'm going to work on this for 1 hour. I'm going to take a 15-minute break. I'm going to go on a walk at this hour, whatever it is. Give yourself that time, especially a lot of us. And I can say for myself, there's 18 ways to get a hold of someone. So we get a lot of like technology overload. So make sure you have those walking breaks and those timeouts where you can just have that mindful minutes are also good to take care of yourself. I took one today and I stopped my entire team and I said, look out the window, look at this beautiful sunrise. You got to take that time, but also the calendar. That was the number one thing I took home from all these leaders. Just schedule yourself and then it gets done.
I love that you glossed over the fact that you were at work when the sun was rising. I'm not on a panel and I haven't risen to these ladies' exceptional level of
lies,
accountability,
Lies.
and responsibility.
Yes, you
But
have.
one thing that I would like to share for Chris and anybody else that I'm starting to hone into practice is I think it's called Eisenhower matrix. And it's basically a Punnett square where you create a 2x2 grid. And the x-axis is how important something is, and the y-axis is how urgent it is. And if you put your to-do list into that Punnett square, you can really prioritize. Obviously the things that are important and urgent are definitely going to get done. The next box we often jump to is the not important urgent things. But is there somebody you can delegate that to, or is that deadline real or fake? And the box that is often neglected is the important things that have no urgency, like submitting an abstract to AANP or doing, something for yourself like exercise. And so, by putting it in that Punnett square, I think it's helpful to stay, I say, above the line, stay in the y-axis of importance, and not get bogged down by something because it's urgent if it's not important. So that's been really, really helpful for me as I take on mini versions of these fantastic leaders roles to try and not let myself get derailed.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Do you mind if I add one more thing, Sarah?
Oh, yes, please.
Someone gave us a lecture at my corporate setting, and it was someone pretty high ranked, and she has 3 kids, and she's a lovely human. And so everyone's like, how does she do it all? And her motto is work-life rhythm, not work-life balance. Because when everyone's like, you just got to find your balance. And it's like, well, that's a bunch of BS, because every day brings new challenges, and no day looks the same. So work-life rhythm, you orchestrate your life, right? So you decide when the guitar plays louder or when the flute plays louder, meaning the guitar is your work, the flute is your family, the piano is your exercise. So maybe there are times in life when the piano plays louder than the flute, but we are in charge of that. So it's time for us to try and take charge. And to everyone's point on this call, no one's going to take care of us better than us. And so really get a hold of that and put time on your calendar if that's what it takes to exercise, even if it's a 20-minute walk around the hospital, because those excuses can't be excuses anymore. We have to take it upon ourselves.
And Sarah, before we close, can you plug our mentorship program, being on the board?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's lots of opportunities in SVN. Hopefully everyone on this call is either in SVN as a member or is considering joining, and I highly suggest you should. One of the things that we do is we have a mentorship program. So for those of you who are experienced listening in, please reach out. You can be a mentor like these fantastic women. And if you're looking for mentorship, we can pair you with somebody who is experienced, and it can be Kristen in Colorado and Allie in Nashville. You don't necessarily have to have these folks, but they don't have to be, we're not limited by your geographic region. We can really partner you with somebody whose mentorship can help you grow. And thank you to Mo, who put the Mentor Match website in there. So our goal is to match you with a mentor that will be able to help you achieve the career goals that you set out. And I guarantee you that no matter what your ambition is, there is somebody in Society of Vascular Nursing who will champion you, who has walked a similar road, and who will help you get to where you want to be. With that, I think we're coming up on time. I'd like to thank our 3 panelists and all of our audience members for joining. This was a wonderful roundtable. Please look for the next roundtable coming out in a few months for education. We will also have a board, kind of a meet the board open meeting to hear about what's going on in the society in December. So we hope you can join us for that. If it's not on your calendar already, in June, we have our annual meeting. And so, get more involved, be here. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah. Bye, ladies.